Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. Um, I just had something rather terrifying happen. Um, and a lot of, to be, completely forthcoming, um, a lot of the terror was simply my mind taking something to an extreme that, as of yet, it has not uh, come to. However, it was enough to trigger a little bit of a panic attack and to make me very, very worried about my mental state, especially since I am, as I've mentioned already, alone uh, for at least the next few days. So if I were to attempt to do something stupid to myself, no one would actually check on me or anything for quite a few days, meaning even if I botched it up, there's a good chance I would be dead anyway. So, yes, what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about Planned Parenthood. Now, as soon as I mention that, I am going to incite some people to rage. I'm going to incite some people to frustration, and some people are just going to go, I wonder what he wants to say. Um, Planned Parenthood itself uh, has a phenomenal marketing department that has uh, used used some facts and some mistruths and some outright lies um, to create a a gut reaction with most people that if you talk negatively about Planned Parenthood, that you are automatically talking about women's rights issues and women's health issues and all these other things. And um, it's a brilliant marketing tactic. It means that the likelihood of them ever losing their business is relatively low because they are not a business; they are a moral necessity. And once you change from something that makes money to something that helps the world, um, the way that your business operates is very, very different. Um, so, yes, what I am going to talk about today is some of the misconceptions that a lot of people have about Planned Parenthood on both sides. I have my own personal opinions about Planned Parenthood. I'm going to do my best to not inject them into this conversation because that's what I did before and I got attacked for it. Um, and again, by the time I realized what was happening, I had already just um, deleted the tweet that I made that started the attack. But uh, uh, and to be 100% honest, I think I only had, I don't know, maybe half a dozen different people that started to kind of lay in on me, and it wasn't the worst I'd ever seen. Nobody told me to kill myself or anything like that. It was just a lot of, you're really stupid and other things like that. Um, but it was enough in my already altered state of mind to cause me quite a bit of panic. So to give you guys some background, Ann Wheaton, whom I have the utmost respect for, and admiration for. I think she's an amazing, amazing person. And what she does, she has a charity that she runs. I can't remember the name of it right now. But it's brilliant. It's amazing. She does stuff with the Pasadena Humane Society, and she's just a very, very talented woman in addition to the fact that I have a massive amount of respect and admiration for her husband for his immense contributions to the geek community, to the acting community, and all this stuff. Like I think they're both amazing, lovely, wonderful people. However, for those of you that don't know, there was a situation in Colorado Springs. There was a shooter that shot a few people around a Planned Parenthood clinic. As of right now, I don't think we actually know his motives yet. We just know that it happened. There was I think there were 3 people that were killed, unfortunately, and like another 9 that were injured by the guy before he was eventually taken into custody. That's not what I want to talk about. Um, what I did want to talk about is, as soon as anything happens to Planned Parenthood, this is always what happens. It never changes. Something happens involving Planned Parenthood, and the infographic will come up because one of the articles that referenced it was they called it an abortion clinic. Um, and people flip out if you say abortion clinic because no, 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 Planned Parenthood does so many other things and it's this most amazing company that does it all for free, which isn't true. Um, and yeah, so they start. This infographic comes around literally every single year that Planned Parenthood releases their annual statement. They have this infographic in there, and what it is, it shows all the different services that they offer in categories. And their abortion services make up 3% of the total number of services that they provide. Those of you who don't know, Planned Parenthood provides abortions. Obviously, that's what it's most famous for. But it also provides things like STD and STI. I'm actually not sure if those are interchangeable or not, but they list them STD/STI. So I just say both. They provide testing for that. They provide women's health services, things like Pap smears and stuff like that, which is used to detect cervical cancer, and I believe a bunch of other things as well, like Pap smears. I'm a guy, so I've never had one. But my understanding is they're actually very, very important to women's health. And they're not the cheapest things in the world because they involve a lot of specific testing equipment that's expensive. And so Planned Parenthood offers them either for free or for low cost, depending on your income and a bunch of other different things. So so what they do is they release this infographic every year, and it sticks to this thing that abortions make up only 3% of the services that they offer. And that number is technically true. It is a fact. They can support it with data, and it's very, very simple and easy to see where that number comes from. If you look at their annual statement, you can see they provided this many of this service, they provided this many of this service, you added them all up, then divide by blah, 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 math, 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 and you come up with the numbers that they showed. It is 100% a legitimate way to come about a number. So I'm not saying that that number is wrong in any sense of the word. However, that number is misleading. Simply because the way that they count this, and this has been documented over and over and over again. If you go to Google and you search about these numbers, you will find tons and tons and tons of reports where people kind of blast them for the fact that they kind of weight their numbers. And the way that they do that is by this. So if a woman comes in to get an abortion, which happens, again, 3% of the time, out of every 100 people, 100 services that they offer, 3 of them are abortions. So this is a regular occurrence, especially when you start looking at the fact that they offer millions of services a year. Every 3 out of 100 are abortions. So when a woman comes in for an abortion, generally what will happen, according to people that have gone to news sources that used to work there, you can find it on Snopes and things like that, is the woman will come in. They're required by law, I believe all over the country, or though it may just be some states, I'm actually not sure. Again, I've never actually been to Planned Parenthood. Someone who hasn't had sex in 8 years, there's not a whole lot of reason for me to keep getting tested. So basically what they do is the woman comes in and she has to be given, I don't remember the exact words, but it's basically they present her options. You know, they're required to say, by the way, there's other things that you can do. You can look at adoption, other stuff like that. They're required to talk to her about the actual physical side effects of having an abortion, because there are, and it can be a very traumatic experience for some women, because it is a surgical procedure, and depending on how far along, whether or not you believe the baby is alive at this point, there is a physical connection between the mother and the child, and removing it, no matter how you do it, is a very large physiological change, and it can have some pretty big side effects. And so they're required by law to talk about those. which none of that is bad. Um, so what happens generally is a woman will come in, she will get those things. Those actually count as two different services. Because one is talking about other options, that's one service, and one is talking about uh, side effects. So those are actually two different counseling services. Then they will generally test them for STDs and stuff like that. Each different STD that they test for counts as a different service, depending on how they do it. It may be, and this I can't verify. I just read it in an article somewhere that I can't find anymore. It may be just all this STD checks that all count as a service. But anyway, so if they come in, they're going to get checked for STDs. Again, that's a healthy thing to do. It's a good thing. That counts as another service. If they talk to them about contraception and other things so that they don't have to have this again, that's another form of counseling. That's another service. Providing them with contraception, either birth control pills or condoms and stuff like that, that's another service. So someone that their only purpose for coming there was to get an abortion will actually leave having anywhere between 5 to 7 services. So there is no possible way, the way that they count, that their services could ever be higher than about 20% of them being abortions. Because again, and this you can find it on Snopes, they're actually, most of the clinic staff are required to go, okay, you have to do this and this and this and this and this. They've actually been taken to court a couple times. I don't think they've ever actually been convicted, but they have had quite a few times and like, maybe we need to be a little bit careful about this, because what they'll do is they have this little checklist and they'll sit there and go, bup, 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 bup. And they'll claim that they do all these things, and they don't technically actually do them every single time. However, they do charge the government for it because they get subsidies and stuff like that. And so a couple of people have brought them to court for that. I don't think they've ever been convicted. If they had been, that would be a really big deal. Generally, when stuff like that happens, and this is across the board in every business in the world, when that becomes a common practice, what they do is as soon as they get caught, they claim they don't have it anywhere in any of their official memos, because that would be stupid. They claim that person was working on their own, they fire them, and then they get massive fines. And generally it's taken care of out of court. Nobody ever hears about it. I've seen it happen to managers. I've seen it happen to regular employees. This is a very common business practice when you're caught doing something wrong. Whether or not they're charging for services that they don't offer, they do 100% sit there and just anyone that comes in gets all of these services, even if they don't want it. So that's a way to pad the numbers, because they count services that no one ever asked for, no one ever needed, and generally aren't really doing a whole lot to pad their numbers. For those of you wondering where I found this information, it is literally everywhere on the internet. I'm not going to put links in here because, to be 100% honest, those of you that are actually curious and want to learn more about this, you can find the information everywhere on the internet. It is one of the most documented things in the world. I keep mentioning Snopes because I found information there, and generally they tend to be fairly reliable. So you can check out stuff there. However, the rest of the people that would be clicking on this would be clicking on it specifically to just discredit me. I've had this happen before where I've talked about everything from evolution versus intelligent design to abortion to a million other things. And a lot of people actually don't care about what's right or wrong or truth or fiction. They just care about being right. And what they will do is they will sit there and they will dissect these things and just completely rip them apart as a way to just attack me personally. And I've had everything from people claiming that, well, I don't have a degree in math or anything, so my ability to read data is invalid, and therefore I should shut up. I've had people tell me flat out that the sources that I use, no matter how well sourced they are invalid due to a billion different things. It's just, again, the whole purpose of it is not to actually find out what the truth is. It's to discredit me. And with my current mental state, I just don't want to deal with it. So if you are interested, you actually want to find out the truth, go ahead. You can find it anywhere. Read some conservative stuff, read some liberal stuff, and understand that both sides are lying to you 100%. And that the truth is somewhere in the middle. And it's really, really hard to find out what the actual truth is. It's one of the reasons I've done the massive amount of research into this that I have. So anyway, they do pad the numbers. That 3% is technically a true figure, but it's very, very, very misleading. And if they were actually to count it as, everyone that came in just for an abortion and all this extra stuff, the number would be significantly higher. When you actually look at the amount of money that they make off of these services, abortions are their number one money maker. As far as money that they actually earn for services rendered. And that's because abortions are expensive. They are. Anyone that's ever had to actually pay for an abortion, they're really expensive. They can cost upwards of $800 for a single thing, which is still less than having a child. So financially, even though it's a very large amount of money, we're still talking about a fraction of what it costs to raise a child to adulthood. But yes, so I made the comment that I think the tweet was something about, yeah, but that 3% counts up for 84% of their revenue, which was another misleading and I think technically just flat out false claim. I found it in an article. I didn't search the article because I'd heard this number quite a few other times, and I just assumed it was right. That was my mistake. The number, we technically don't know. The way that the business world works is profit margins are a guarded secret. No one will ever tell you what their profit margins are on anything, and they're not required to. If you ever find out what profit margins are, that either means that you worked for the company or somehow you have gotten insider information, which can technically be illegal to obtain depending on how it was obtained. So us finding out how much money they actually make off of abortions is never going to happen. The way that this number was come to is apparently a guy went and took their total number of abortions, multiplied it by the $800 that an abortion can cost, and that's where he came up with the 84% by taking out the government subsidies and grants and things that they get. It was 84% of their revenue minus the free money that they get for the government, because technically they will count that as revenue because it is money that they're bringing in, but it's money that they didn't earn. It was just free money given to them. So that technically is not a bad practice. Counting it as only the money that they actually earned as opposed to just free money that they give. And that's also another very common practice. So that number, again, might have just been misleading or could just be 100% wrong, that 84%. I read another article and they knocked it down to about 55% of their actual revenue minus their government subsidiaries, which again is remarkably high. Especially when 3% of total number of services makes up 55% of their income. That is a massive, massive amount of money, especially when you're looking at their total revenue for the past year was, what was it, 187 million or something like that? No, 184.7 million in revenue, which is a lot of money, especially for a nonprofit. Now, when you look at the fact that every year they get significantly more than that in free money from the government and things like that, you're looking at a company that is literally using hundreds of millions of dollars every single year to do tons and tons and tons of things. So yes, as soon as I posted this, Ann Wheaton retweeted it with a quote that said, "Oops, somebody doesn't know how to math." Which started me getting angry. I really don't like it when people imply that I don't know what I'm doing. It's actually one of the triggers that I have, and I do my best to avoid it. And so without actually looking at anything or even trying to figure out what it was that I was saying, she just decided, well, 3% and 84%, those numbers are not the same. He must be stupid. And then a sling of tweets started coming at me. Of people attacking me personally and going to even further things. Like I saw someone post something like, don't you know 423,000% of abortions are performed at Planned Parenthood and all this other just bullshit. People attacking me just because it made them feel good. And that's when I started having my panic attack because I thought this was going to blow up, kind of like what happened to my brother last year, and what I've seen happen to a lot of other people, where they make an offhand comment and then the internet crucifies them. Um, and so I went back to Ann Wheat and I said, actually, what I was talking about was 3% is number of services performed, 84% is dollar amount as based on total revenue. It actually is solid math. However, I looked at an unsourced article. Obviously, the numbers are slightly different. I apologize. Nothing more. She replies again with something else that I can't remember. I'm actually going to go back to my notifications, see if I can find it. Da, da, da. Oh, I stopped following her. That's what it was. Uh, again, like I've told you guys before, I'm going to be unfollowing people that cause me to experience triggers and things like that because it's simply not healthy for me. So I unfollowed her and I can't find it anymore. Uh, but yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so she continued to respond with condescending things and implying that I have no idea what I'm talking about, which again doesn't do well, especially this is a specific subject that I've done significant amounts of research on and is full of misinformation and lies on both sides. Like Planned Parenthood is just an incredibly murky company in general. What they do is controversial, meaning they're already very guarded about what information they let out and what they don't. And the same reason why I'm not sourcing articles. There will be some people that will just rip them apart for anything that they do simply because they don't like them. And so I can understand that. And from a business perspective, it's a stupid idea to release all of your financial information. No one does that because it's a phenomenally bad idea. So I've done a lot of research into this. What Planned Parenthood does is very much misleading, if not outright dishonest, when they report their figures. And they actively work to stack the deck to make them seem like something that they aren't. Do they provide a lot of services that help with women's health and healthcare in general? Yes, I'm not going to say that they don't. With the Affordable Health Care Act, a lot of the services that people, that women specifically used to only be able to get at Planned Parenthood, they can actually get anywhere because it's required by law for those services to be offered for free. So the fact that they keep pushing this into your face that, well, no, we do all these things, actually, it's not as necessary anymore. That's one of the things the Affordable Health Care Act was specifically designed to combat. Combine that with the fact that they do pad their books and things like that completely legally. I'm not saying that they did anything illegal. I'm just saying what they did is misleading. And they're not the only company in the world that does misleading things and pads their numbers. Just about everybody does it. However, anytime any other company is shown to be padding their numbers by just misleading facts and things like that, when that fact is brought about, the company itself is crucified. Because again, we have this kind of mindset in this country that people that make money are evil. And it's been that way since the 99% rallies. However, because Planned Parenthood is not a business or a nonprofit organization, they're a moral requirement for this country to survive, and that's what their marketing department has made them, and it's been very, very effective. If you speak out about it, you are not speaking out about abortions. You are not speaking out about a company that may be doing some crazy things. You are specifically targeting women anytime you speak out about this particular company. And that is wrong. The company itself, I have my cat here. That's why I keep looking down. There's the kitty. You want to say hi, kitty?
Meow. Hi, kitty. Meow, meow.
Yeah, she's mad at me now. Uh, yeah, the fact that they use misleading figures and things like that obviously shows that, first of all, they have something to hide, and they don't want to admit what it is that they actually do. Abortions are a massive part of their business plan. They make more money off of abortions than anything else. Without offering abortions, they would not be able to keep their doors open. That's just how it works. Um, your opinions on abortions, whether you think that they're good, bad, otherwise, are irrelevant at this point. The company itself that is their big money maker. It's the same thing that at Office Max when I worked there. Ink is their bread and butter. Ink and paper. That's what they make all of their money off of. The profit margins are very high compared to everything else in the store, and that's where they focus on making all of their money. If they didn't sell ink and paper, they would close their doors. Yes, they sell billions of other things in there. Just the massive amount of folders and things that they sell during back to school time. They go literally, oh God, like notebooks. They go like the store I worked in, which is one of the larger stores. Um, we went through, God, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 thousand notebooks in back to school season. It was just 3 months. We may have done more. I'm actually not sure, just because it requires a lot of math to figure out. Because we sold them by the case, and we had and it oh, back to school time is not fun for office supply stores. It's a nightmare. So yes, claiming that Office Max is a store that sells notebooks is 100% misleading. That's not what they make most of their money from, and they would never market themselves that way. What they make money from is their ink. They make money from their tech support services to a point, and they make money from their print services. Like those are the three big things that make them the most money. Um, and you'll notice if you look at advertisements, that's what they kind of push. They push their tech services so that they can do their tech support. They push their ink tons, and they push the print services because that's what they actually are. Um, and the fact that, the largest thing that Planned Parenthood does, they try and belittle and hide behind misleading figures and stuff like that, to me is a dishonest business practice. Um, Again, I'm not saying that they're a horrible, disgusting company that deserve to be defunded or anything like that. My own personal opinions aside, I understand that they do have a place in this country, and they have done some good things. Um, uh, However, I was terrified about what could have happened today. I have now been forced to unfollow someone that I greatly admire, at least for the time being, while I deal with this other stuff, because I'm worried that if I continue doing this, I'm going to get into trouble, and I don't think I should have to do that, especially with someone whom everything I've heard about this woman is that she's a kind, caring, compassionate woman, uh, and that she's a delightful person to talk to, and yeah, like the condescension was something that I was not expecting from her, especially since I was as polite as I could be in presenting um, an opposing viewpoint. And I was just completely blown away by the fact that her first response was, let's just call him stupid. Um, I was not surprised when her followers started attacking me as well, because that's kind of how the internet works. Um, but yes, I am in a very, very bad place right now. I was hoping talking about it would make me feel better, which it has a little bit. And I have a kitty. But yeah, so say what you will. Feel free to give your own opinions about Planned Parenthood in the comments below. But any attacks on me or any other of the posters will just result in your post getting deleted. End of story. I don't need shit like this right now in my life. And I certainly don't think it's something that we need to get up arms a bit about a single nonprofit business. They're not that important, folks. They really aren't. To cause this much pain and suffering, it's just not. There isn't a company, nonprofit in the world that's that important. All right? That's all for me today. We'll see you guys tomorrow for another daily vlog. All right? Bye-bye.